Henry did the...
He called me Claudia.
What the hell? Can we restart this? Just keep going. Okay, so she's not Claudia, she's Gianna. Okay, so here, let's just get into the questions. Okay. All right, here's my, so like, obviously, you know, the themes, there's really big themes of religion, of feminism, and, you know, her family. So first off, I was thinking, like, do you think that the main character is, like, really religious? Or, like, do you think that she's just mirroring her father's, like, behavior and her father's lifestyle?
I don't think that she's actually religious because I know, like, a lot of people are, like, born into religion and then they're just kind of, like, taught that's the way of life. And, like, mirroring your parents' ways, like, is just something that we, like, grow up doing. And so I don't really think that she actually does.
I think she definitely has some religious values and ideas, but I think she also has some ideas of her own, and she definitely, like, in the book shows that she has some contradicting feelings to what she's being taught, and so I think that she is, like, spiritual in some senses, but also, like, not in the ways that her father is at all. And then, like, what motivates her to continue practicing religion, like, so seriously as she does then? If she doesn't, like, if you don't think that she really has that, like, devotion to, like, that, her own personal devotion to her religion, like, if it's more just, like, oh, I'm religious because my parents are, like, what motivates her to do, like, keep practicing the way that she does?
Well, I think what motivates her is, like, mostly her dad, like, out of fear of her dad. Because, like, he's obviously really controlling of the family, and he's a pastor.
Yeah, so she has to, that whole, like, the entire family, like the mother, until, like, towards the end, like, they were all pretty, like, so they were pretty set with how things were, and they just, like, went with how everything was. So I think that her dad really did influence her and kind of, like made her feel like she was forced to stay into practicing. Yeah. Okay, so I thought this was kind of, like, interesting. So since the father, like, her father, who is super religious now, didn't grow up religious, and we know that because his grandfather is, like, still pagan, he still practices those traditional, like, things. So what do you think led the father to convert and be how serious he is and set in stone he is with religion as he is now? Like, why would he choose to convert from such a traditional way that's, like, more widespread accepted and, like, it seems like in the country and in, you know, his specific neighborhoods he grew up in, and now he just converted? Like, what do you think led him to do that?
I feel like well, there's really nothing, like, in the book, but, like, usually a lot of people, they convert to, like, more serious religions so they could have, like, more morals and, like, more, like, structure. Yeah, like, structure in life, and, like, Christianity is, like, a really big one in structure. Like, there's a lot of, like, certain things that, like a lot of morals that go to the religion.
And also I think it was, like, a pressure thing with the, because, like, in the research, Chimamanda had talked about how, like there were, like, a lot of, like, driving forces, like, that were, like, kind of, like, clashing between Islamic traditions and then Christianity, like, and so, like, I think it was just kind of, like, he started going towards one of them that he thought was stronger. So he's very, like, he's really into strength and things like that and power. Yeah, it says somewhere in the book, the daughter, her aunt, was talking to their grandfather, who still, like, practices the traditional, you know, practices or whatever, and she said that, like, some people came to, like, his school or came to wherever and then converted, like, and that's when he converted. So I just thought that's interesting because, like, there's people who, like, came and, like, it just seems like he kind of he just at a drop of a hat, he just changed. Like, converted. I think he knows that he has so much power over the people in his life. Stop doing that. Okay, he knows that he has so much power, like, within the people in his life, and I think part of it just did it because he could, you know? He could. Yeah. Okay. Good discussion. All right. Can we throw in some?
Oh yeah, I mean, whenever you guys have something to throw in that's relevant, go ahead.
And
do you want me to ask the next one, or do you have something to talk about? I'll just ask the next one, and then we can just And at the end, if you have stuff more to add. Okay. So this is getting more into like kind of away from religion. Why is Kimbili? That's how you say it, right? Right. Okay.
I think so.
That's how I've been saying it. Why is her cousin Amaka so spiteful of her? Because throughout the book, like, her cousin is always, like, you know, just picking fights, fighting what she says, just rude, snarky comments. Like, why do you think?
I think it could be an elitist thing, or just, like, a difference in life values. Like more, like, modern versus more, like, set back. So,
because, like, the two families, like, you look at her aunts and cousins, and then you look at her own family, and they're very different, because although her aunt, like, they still practice a more, like, traditional, like, I guess, pagan lifestyle, and she practices, like, a reserved, a set, like, religious lifestyle. It's like there's such a difference between those. I think that there's a lot of judgment going on between the two girls.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think that her cousin just doesn't understand really what's going on, and like why she has way more privileges than, like, she just thinks that they're like boring and lame, but really they're brought up in this way of abuse and of fear. So it's not really up to Kimbili, like, what she does, because her father gives her a set schedule, and I don't think her cousin obviously doesn't realize that, but I think Kimbili is so, like, afraid of, like, making her feel bad, because there's obviously also a very big difference in, like, their economic standing. Like, you know, she's a lot better off, like, more wealthy than her aunt and cousin, so you can go ahead.
So I think that's, like, a big thing, is, like, she doesn't, Amaka is like, oh, she's just rich, she's just, you know, takes advantage of everything, she's, you know, takes everything for granted, but really it's, like, completely the opposite.
Yeah, and, like, Chimamanda, she was born in Nigeria, so she has, like, she has the perspectives from this book that, like, can relate directly to the book, so she knows, like, specific things that are going on in, like, specific places and stuff. And also her father was a professor, and her mother was also, like, very well educated, so that also, like, so she knows more about the wealthy side of things. And then she came to the U.S. and she was not as wealthy as she was when she was in Nigeria, until she started writing books and got famous.
That's kind of interesting that you say that her mother was, like, educated, because all the women figures in the book are, like, or most of them at least, seem like they're very clearly, like, capable, like, really her mom, but they're, like, suppressed by the men around them.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is, like, cool to see, like, maybe, like, the fact that her mom, like, maybe her mom inspired the character of her aunt.
Yeah, for sure.
Her aunt, who was educated, who had her job, you know, and who was on her own free, taking care of her kids, and could do things on her own.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really interesting, and her mom was really well educated, and, like, Chimamanda went to Yale too. So she's just a family full of educators, but I think she also knows that, like, women go through the hardships that men put them through.
Yeah,
but I still completely.
And then more facts. I wanted to, like, expand on the religion in Nigeria, and so it's mainly Muslim, but then when you get to the south, it's dominantly Christian, and then the Christians are mostly Protestant, but then a quarter are Catholic, and so they're both, like, both of those two religions are, like, they're pretty strict and moral, and and then also it's a deep cultural belief that it's socially acceptable to beat women, or just domestic violence is acceptable in Nigeria. And they did a study, and, like, 1 in 3 women were were victims of domestic abuse, which is, like, a huge thing. 1 in 3 is way too common.
Yeah. I had a question just that kind of goes with that. So I was asking, like, what are the gender roles that are shown in the book? And then also, like, how do those affect Kimbili and affect her mother? and like in comparison with other women in the book.
Like the roles of women, like in the start of the book, like her mom was introduced doing laundry, like,
Yeah.
and so like doing chores around the house was just kind of like the mom's job, but then also like being like birthing children, like there's like some weird thing where like their town or like their neighborhood like thought that her mom was like incapable of bearing children,
Yeah.
and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, her husband should just leave her if she can't make any more babies.
Yeah, and like I think it's also really interesting that like there are some like things that are happening now, like how Kimberly's mom like had a miscarriage when her husband was beating her. Like he like has full control of all of the reproductive rights, and
Yeah.
yeah, and like I think all of the women in this book, or in all of her books, they start out as like being completely like repressed by like men, and then as the book goes on, they gain a lot of like self knowledge and like self worth, and I think that also like goes back to her roots in feminism and activism and things like that. Like she's a huge feminist, huge activist, and yeah, so like all of her books talk about the women coming of age and getting stronger.
I found the place where I was talking about it before, but the grandfather says I should not have let him follow those missionaries. And then the aunt says, it was not the missionaries. Did I not go to the missionary school too? And then the grandfather replies, but you are a woman. You do not count. And she said, so I don't count. And she was like, what would happen if she wasn't there to take care of him? Because she has completely taken care of the grandfather since the father just converted religion and then wanted nothing to do with the grandfather. So it's like you see that too, is that even though she's like completely taking care of her father, he's saying you don't even count, like you're not valuable anyways.
Henry, do you have any passages?
Yeah. So the first one I have is when they were going to like the Benedict's house to confess because they didn't want to do it in Igbo, like when they went back to the town. And it was like the passages. That was the problem with our people. Papa told us our priorities were wrong. We cared too much about the huge church buildings and mighty statues. We'd never see white people doing that, and I think it like shows that like the Christianity and religion, like, and just like the different culture that's like becoming part of like the daily life there.
Yeah.
Is like it's like viewed as being better for like Christian like whatever. Next one is in chapter 10. Is when they were arguing about like the grandpa and like his religious beliefs. It's talking about the aunt, and it says like, then she looked up and said, Papa Nukwu was not a heathen but a traditionalist, that sometimes what was different was just as good as it was familiar. That when Grandpa Nukwu did his Itu Nzu, his declaration of innocence in the morning, it was the same as saying the rosary. So it's like saying that it's like the same kind of, it's like, it's kind of going against what like Dad said in the past, but
Yeah, for sure. And like that's how Chimamanda like feels in her real life. Like she's not a very religious person, but her father is Catholic, and she has a very like open mind about different religions and different things like that.
Right. And then the last one I had was when the mom was like telling the kids about like the dad or whatever, and like way in the end, like in chapter 16, and it said, I started putting the poison in his tea before I came to Nisuka. Cece got it for me. Her uncle was a powerful witch doctor. And as for a long silent moment, I could think of nothing. Then I thought of taking sips from Papa's tea. Love sips, the scalding liquid burned his love onto my tongue. And he said, why did you put it in the tea? I asked Mama. Rising, my voice was loud. I was almost screaming, why in his tea? So it's like, it's like I thought it was interesting because it's like the mom like kills the dad at the same time. It's like, it's not really obvious if she did the right thing.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because like throughout this story, you're like, why isn't she doing anything? At least like I was just really, really frustrated because it seemed she just seemed like she was not doing anything to protect anyone, but really she was she was so strong, and she was doing this